Thank you for listening to the Following Films podcast. Today I'm joined by Nora Zehetner. I had her on the show today to talk about her latest film, BONEYARD. When the skeletal remains of 11 women and children are discovered in the New Mexico desert, an extensive investigation is launched. Inspired by true crime stories, this chilling crime thriller follows Police Chief Carter, Detective Ortega, and Agent Petrovick in a multi-agency effort to identify and apprehend the killer. As each of their agendas and methods clash, a tangled web of intrigue casts suspicion in all directions. I had a great time chatting with Nora and highly recommend you checking out the film. Hope you enjoy the show. Thanks. I gotta ask right away, where are you, Nora? What is going on over there? Are you moving? Do you need to go help?
I'm moving out. This is my giant office building. I own all of this. Yes. Would you like an office? Would you like to buy an office?
I could use one. I could, especially this time of year when the kids are home from school. So
there you go. We'll set you up in there. We can get you a nice little microphone. Yeah. How much you want to pay me? I'm renting them out.
It would be very, very little. I promise it wouldn't be enough. But thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here with you.
So how is your day going so far, going through? And I'm always curious, the gauntlet of interviews, how you keep your head on straight through these things.
I don't. I at this point, I'm like, God, I'm really dumb. like, what am I saying? It's challenging for me. I wish I was. I feel like there are people who are just so good at, eloquently distilling a film and telling you I should see it, and I'm just a bit jumbly.
Well, that's kind of that. It's a gift. It's a skill. People that are able to do that. When my bumbling questions come out and people are actually able to interpret that and stay on track. So I'm always very impressed with it. So, but I will try to keep this on track for you. So
thank you. Thank you. I've warned you, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to tell everybody before we do the interview what a jumbly mess I might be.
So. Oh, no. It's both of us. I'm going to do my best to keep it on track though. So, to me, the thing that I really enjoyed about this film, that I'm 47. So this was a throwback to the stuff that I saw in the late 80s, early 90s. It felt like something from a bygone era, honestly. And I'm wondering if that was something that attracted you to this film. And you frequently seem to do films that are from times before and kind of out of step with the current, what's currently going on. And I'm not sure if you agree with that assessment or not.
I'm just out of step. I don't know what to tell you.
That's a compliment, though. I like that stuff. I'm attracted to that stuff.
The 2020s. No, I don't know. I think there's just so many interesting stories to tell, and this obviously being kind of inspired by one of them. And yeah, I found it to be a very interesting story, and I sensed, Asif and Vince's passion for the project and wanting to tell the story in a really sensitive manner and also in a quite gripping manner. And so I was excited to be part of it. And
then that is something, I'm glad you bring that up, because the material itself, it could be handled in multiple ways, where I could definitely see a more exploitative take on this material. And this is not that.
Yeah, good. I'm glad that came across, because I think that was everybody's intention for it not to be. So.
It's very easy to slide into that. And that's almost, sometimes it's a perception thing where you can be, as an audience member, it's just really how the material hits you. And you can feel there's certain things that are not, I don't know how you can quantify them. Like cynicism is something that I love films that have a cynical message, but a film that is made with cynicism, that it feels like the people that made it, they just were doing a thing to get to the next thing or to check a box or something. I don't know how to actually say or see it in a film and say that's the moment that's cynical, but I do think that comes across when art is made with cynicism.
Yeah, I think especially like as a woman, like I wanted to make sure that like none of it felt gratuitous in any way. And I think that these women have already been exploited enough, and to try and sensationalize that in any way would bum me out,
Well, of course, it's not something that you have to make something that's a film that's entertaining, that people enjoy, but at the same time, you don't want to make it on the backs of anybody. You don't want it to be something that is so something that is causing more harm than
Yeah.
shedding a light, I guess, in a way. And that's something that's really difficult to pull off while maintaining and not getting on a soapbox. It's why you're on this side of the camera and I'm on the other side right now, because I am not, so I would be on a soapbox. That's how I would approach this material, and it would not be an entertaining film.
Right.
And so then can you talk about that idea of making something that is very serious, but also at the same time has to be entertaining?
I don't know. I mean, that part's not my job, to be honest. Like
True.
I left that to the director and the writer. But you know, for me, it was just important to make sure my character was grounded and make sure that she made sense and I felt good about it. And you know, had many conversations with Vince and Sif about that. And because I think that she is like a very strong woman and with strong ideas and you know, and I think that this case was very important to her and I just really wanted to convey that.
And what's it like to, as an actor, to put yourself in this headspace for as long as you shoot something, even though I'm assuming this wasn't months that you were shooting this film, but still you're doing this for, 12, 14, 16 hours a day, having your head in this space, in this reality, that has to be taxing, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not a method actor. Like for me, it's important to be able to, you know, differentiate my life from whatever I'm filming and be able to like let it go because I have the privilege of doing that, not actually, obviously, being the real detective. So yeah, I mean, it is very disturbing um, to live in that world for sure. But I shook it off whenever I could. Brian and I had a lot of fun in between takes sometimes, and at the end of the day, and you know.
Well, it's odd to say this, but it does feel like this movie was made with heart, because it doesn't feel like something, again, back to that cynicism thing, that it feels like everybody was on the same page with this movie. Oftentimes you'll see films like this that are sort of these smaller budget, mid-budget films that don't have that feeling necessarily. And this does feel like something where everybody was on board for telling this particular story. So um what has the response been like so far?
I don't know. I haven't.
Oh,
I haven't. I mean, when I've talked to everybody says something nice today because you know that's how press day is going to go. But I haven't really gotten to talk to. I talked to Brian about it, and I know that he really liked it. But I haven't.
it's
I
good. It
yeah,
is. It's good.
yeah,
You made a good film. It's and
great.
when I say that this is something that's out of step with modern sort of times right now, it's because it's an adult-minded film that
Which is great.
actually it's something that we just don't see a lot
I know,
now.
don't you miss that? I
Yeah.
was talking to somebody about that. Like just even like the big budget movies of the 90s and late 80s that weren't necessarily like the best films. They were just good. They were just I still go back and watch them. And obviously
Oh,
like go back further, like the 70s, amazing. But
of course. Well,
yeah.
yeah, no, you're right. The 80s and 90s, these films that we took for granted. Somebody was
Mhm.
the other day going through just like a list of John Grisham movies. And it's
Oh,
something that like I
I just
totally
did
took,
that. I
like
love
the
all of them.
yeah, like the Firm and Pelican Brief and all these other, the Rainmaker, whatever it was. And you're like, my God, I took all of those movies for granted at the time. I just kind of expected that would go on forever, because this is that you get a movie
Yeah.
star putting in a this kind of like, mid-budget film that's something that's going to
Yeah.
be thoughtful, well executed. And wasn't that a good afternoon at the movies? And you would just enjoy it. And that would
Yeah.
be it. Now, that's pretty rare these days.
I know. I almost watched the Pelican Brief this week, actually, with somebody who
Really?
hadn't seen it before, and I was like, I always enjoyed the Pelican Brief, and on Rotten Tomatoes, it's only like 50% or something, and it's so crazy to me because to me, it still stacks up better than a lot of films. And I mean, come on, it has
I,
Denzel and Julia, like it's great.
and at the time, that I think that Rotten Tomatoes is such a horrible thing anyway,
Yeah,
as far as for criticism and for just aggregation of opinion is such a bad way to do things. But I know it's very important for the industry and those kinds of things. But 50% of people really hated the Pelican Brief, that it was that low. Come on.
it's crazy, right?
Doesn't
Yeah,
make any damn sense to me. I mean, is it
it doesn't make any sense. I'm on board with you.
not perfect, but you could do much, much worse. We've all done worse than that. So I feel like your film is in that sort of that mindset, not necessarily that one specifically, but you are in that tradition of these sort of these adult minded films, something that
Yeah.
you can absolutely, this is something that I can imagine watching this with my 13-year-old now, because that's when I first really started getting into more adult
Too.
minded movies, the movies that weren't made for me. It's basically you went from being a kid and there were a couple kids movies, like two a year maybe. And then it's
Mhm.
okay. You have to watch what the adults watch now,
Yeah.
so that, and I think this is the type of stuff that really got me into film. It's seeing these more, thoughtful stories that actually get you to pick up a book or read an article or look into something a little bit more. And there's clearly a much larger story to be told here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, just out of curiosity, is this something that you want to spend? Is this something that attracts you to a role? Spending time in these types of worlds with these types of characters that are a little bit more thoughtful, something that has more to say that possibly will have impact. Is that something you consider when taking something on?
Always. I mean, I think I just always am really interested in really telling a story, as opposed to just, having a series of action scenes, or you know what I mean? Like it's great when you feel like you can tell a story and somebody can go in and they can have an experience, or have an emotional response or learn something, or that's what always makes me feel good when I go to the movies.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of always looking for that black box theater experience to some degree, where it's just the walls between you and the performer are as cut down as possible. Where, when you have these big set pieces, I enjoy that stuff. Don't get me wrong. I definitely enjoy mindless popcorn stuff, but really the magic of movies to me is performance. It's just seeing an actor do their thing, and the things that you do that distract from that performance are that inhibit the story for me. So I remember once when Jodie Foster was talking about the movie Contact, and when she did that somebody was asking her what would be the difference if you directed this film. And she said that, well, I guess it would just be two people in a room talking about science and religion. And to me, they're both valid approaches to the material, but I think the Jodie Foster approach is the one that I would be far more interested in.
Right. Did you see Mass? Speaking of,
Of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was
My God.
amazing. It was
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. There's,
People staying in a room talking.
mhm. Yeah. Okay. Just okay. While we're on a side tangent, if you have a limited story, kind of a chamber piece, what would be one that you would recommend to people?
What's yours?
There's a bunch. I mean, I think the first one I saw as a kid was My Dinner with Andre, which is something that on paper doesn't make any sense that I should care about that as an 11-year-old. But the
Mhm.
fact that when I saw that and it was just two people at dinner talking about a world that I knew nothing about, guy talking about theater and, the importance of acting and these kinds, didn't mean anything to me at that time. But it was just, there was an odd tension to the movie that I couldn't get away from and couldn't shake it. So yeah, I would say that one, but that can be kind of pretentious sounding it to some degree, I think. But maybe you could also go with something like Primer, because that's really just three people talking.
Primer.
A Primer, I'm sorry. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Yeah. No, I saw it. Uh, I'm trying to go through this now. Mouse is, of course, the one that just like popped in my mind. I mean, you could go with something like the Before Sunrise movies.
There's not. If I turned off the blur in the background, my wife got me the box set a couple years ago. Those are
Oh,
oh no, so those are three very very important films to me that I
yeah.
have
They make
gone
me
through
happy.
we've gone through the whole evolution of those films as a
Mhm.
couple, where you just, and I think that's his idea of dealing with time, and through those movies where it's just two people talking and it's so beautiful, intense, and just, yeah, I could, that's a wonderful recommendation. If somebody hasn't seen the Before films, you should definitely see those. So, but I'm sorry for not keeping it on track as much as I promised I would. But Nora, it was really great to meet you, and congratulations on the film. I think you got a special one here, so you got something to be proud of.
Oh, it's such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. And I love Brick, by the way. It's just
Oh,
I know that it's one of those things where you just say you're probably sick of hearing about that thing, but Matt, that's one of the good ones.
no,
So
I'm still very, very proud of that movie. So
you should be. It's I always worry that it's like somebody found a trapper keeper with my high school poetry, and they keep complimenting that, and it would just be, oh, thank you, but I'm going to be gracious, but I've done other shit in the last 20 years, so.
Trapper Keepers. God, I remember Trapper Keepers. I heard that reference in a really long time, so thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you, Nora. Nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you.
Thank you, Emma.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And I don't wanna go home, not this time. You think the story gets old, but I don't mind. After all the things she said to me, after all I know she cares, but that night I was not alright. I've never been there, so I was quite scared. So I've never been there, so I was quite scared. Oh, and I remember all the words she said to me. Now I know she's got me figured out, figured out, figured out. And I don't wanna go home. Not tonight. Just let me talk about all the old times. Just drink until it's funny, babe. I feel future solemn stare, but I know I'm alright. I've never been there, so I was quite scared. So I've never been there, so I was quite scared. Oh, and I remember all the words she said to me. Now I know she's got me figured out, figured out, figured out. I miss my friends, I miss my friends so. I miss my friends, I miss my friends so.